In southern Ontario, Canada, near the Niagara Escarpment in Burlington, Ontario, is one of the most scenic roads in the area, Snake Road. It was here, along Snake Road, that Bob Lanois planted his roots in 1988. With his own hands and inventiveness, Bob designed and built his own cabin, the shack as he called it. Bob wanted to be close to nature, and he kept the land as natural as possible. It was important to Bob to be away from the noise, clutter, and distraction, and to have a place where he could be himself, where he could work and be creative. In the fall of 2021, I learned of a seemingly abandoned cabin in the woods, and after finding out that it and its owner are a major part of local and Canadian music history, I decided to dig deeper and get the whole story. Bob bought the shack property in 1988, but had been looking at it since 1986. There was already a tiny shed there, but he built onto it and turned it into a much larger place. He designed it himself and built it with his own hands with the help of some friends. Bob lived in this shack almost full-time from 1990 onwards. He wanted to be close to nature and keep the land as natural as possible. Bob Lanois was a curious and inquisitive person, always questioning and searching for new and alternative approaches to things. He was self-educated, and conventional school did not interest him. When something wasn't working for him, he would simply learn how to fix it. At some point, Bob decided to turn his shack in the woods into his very own recording studio, where he could invent new recording technology, invite singers and bands to record, and make music with Bob at the controls. Bob ended up with a fully operational recording studio in the shack, installing lots of power outlets throughout and putting large pieces of equipment up in the rafters underneath the roof.
Bob, working with Bob in this space was definitely a journey, a drive out here that you took that you didn't know if you were going to actually make it home again. And that's mentally or physically. Once you got into Bob's web, it raised a lot of doubt whether you could ever leave that web.
I'd love to hear about the experience of recording in here and what it's like having Bob as your sound engineer.
Yeah, so more than sound engineer, he was basically like a sorcerer. Bob was very close to the elements. He lived here close to the elements by choice. But he was also always, he was activated by the elements, so by the wind, by the light, and, that stillness that comes from being in the woods. I think that's why he was very drawn to live here and felt probably his purest self or his highest self.
Yeah, we all took to him and liked him. He was easy to talk to, yeah, so we decided to do our next video with him, which was Greasy Jungle, and that was done more at his cabin, and I would say less artsy, whole different sort of all game, like sort of through the brush, and it's little kind of overexposed kind of treatment. So I would have gone there one other time to discuss Greasy Jungle with Gord and Bob, but then Gord Downey ended up visiting with him like here and there because he was in Toronto and Bob just outside of Burlington, so he was we all liked him, and working with him was a good experience. And then Gord ended up to see him here and there over the years.
The shack location was always a reset button for me, just to see how my brother lived. We were very close. We came up together very, very close. And when I went to work abroad, I had to leave all that behind. but he went deeper into it. And so as the traveling one of the two, when I came back to Hamilton and visited the shack, it was a reminder about the values that Bob always operated by and the sacrifice that I made to leave that kind of life behind myself, because I could have gone that way myself. But I knew that we were on two different journeys, and that I knew that I still had something to say as a record maker. I was very excited about the art form and its potential, and Bob was very excited about being rooted and have more of an understanding of where he came from. And he wasn't interested in evolving beyond that in terms of acquisition or building an empire in some urban environment. He was very happy to be in that place where he could see the deer wander, and he could befriend that woodpecker, and be in that same place. He took so many photographs through the same window. I wish there was a book, some kind of a, you see these books, these photos by repetition through seasons, and Bob would be the best at this because he could have 1,000 pictures through the same window, and you'd be able to see the evolution of nature through his eyes.
In Bob's final years, in declining health, he could no longer stay at the shack, and he worked on his music in a small studio he had set up in his home near Hamilton, Ontario. One of Bob's favorite lines right up till the end was, "I'm just getting started." He was excited about things he wanted to do, including modifying his BL99 preamp to improve it. After suffering from several ailments and serious conditions for many years, Bob's body could no longer keep up with him. On Wednesday evening, April 14th, Bob collapsed suddenly in great pain on the floor of his home. He was taken by ambulance to St. Joseph's Hospital Emergency in Hamilton, Ontario, where he suddenly slipped into a coma and never came out of it. Bob Lanois passed away on Monday evening, April 19th, 2021, 2 weeks after his 73rd birthday.